Good morning, everyone. You know, in Judaism, when you want to wish someone a long life, you wish them arichut yamim. Long life is arichut yamim. But if you translate the words arichut yamim, it literally means arichut means long, yamim means days. So when you wish someone a long life, you say, may you have long days. Why didn't you say, may you have long life or long years? And the answer is that the secret to having a long life is to have long days. You know, sometimes you finish your day and you say, wow, that was such a full day. I accomplished so much in the same 12 hours. And some days you end the day and you're like, what did I do today? The day went by, but I didn't really accomplish much. So the blessing of long life is not that you should live long life. That too. But it should be long days. Every day of the long life should be a long day. And that's why they say that a long life is not good enough and a good life is not long enough. It's not enough to have a long life, you have to have a good life. And the opening verse of this week's parsha talks about that. It says, Chayei Sara, the life of Sarah was Me'ah Shana, V'esrim Shana, V'sheva Shanim. She lived 127 years. And then it says, Shnei Chayei Sara, these were the years of Sarah. So Rashi says, what does it mean? These were the years of Sarah. The opening of the verse says, these were the years of Sarah. So Rashi says, Kulam Shavim Litova, that all the days of our life were equally good. And the question is there a person in this world that can say, all the days of my life were equally good? Everyone has good days and bad days, good weeks and bad weeks, good periods and bad periods. Especially Sarah, she went through a lot of hardship. She was abducted by Pharaoh. She didn't have a child for many years. She had trouble with Ishmael. How can you say they were equally good? And the answer is that it's not about what happened to her. It's how she responded to every event in her life. She responded to every day of her life with the same goodness, the same consistency, pervaded and permeated each and every day of her life. Every day was kulam shavim l'tova. She performed the same acts of goodness. Whether she was having a good day or a bad day, she responded equally good in all circumstances. And this is also what it means that they were kulam shavim l'tova. Yush Chayei Sara was 127 years. These were the years of Sarah. Sometimes if a person lives, let's say, 80 years, but if you count how many years you really lived in those 80 years, you may say he only lived 20 years or 30 years. Yeah, he existed 80 years, but how many of those 80 years did he really live? By Sarah, all 127 years, she fully lived each and every one of those 127 years. They were kulam. They were all years of goodness, meaning that her actual date of life, existence, matched how many years were actually lived fully. And that's why when we wish people, you say you have a long life and you should have a full life, that every day of your life should be completely full. And to give you an example of fullness, you know, the greatest accomplishment that a Jew could do is finish the entire Talmud. It's a huge undertaking. It's over 2,000 pages, and it takes at least an hour to study one page of Talmud. But there's something called Siyum Hashas, where people learn one page a day, and if you don't miss one day for 7 years straight, you could finish the whole Talmud. And it was an amazing story once that there were a group of Jews, religious Jews, who went every day on the Long Island Railroad to work in Manhattan. And the ride was about an hour on the train. So they would get on the train every day at 7 o'clock, a group of Jews, and they would all get on the same car. And they would immediately sit down. The minute they got on the car, they would open up the Talmud, and they would have a class, a chavurah, on the train. From the minute they got on the train till the minute they got off the train. And when they finished the whole Talmud, people make big celebrations. They brought a musician and a caterer onto the train car where they learned every day for 7 years, and they celebrated in the car the completion of the whole Talmud. And when I heard that story, I said to myself, you know, most people on the train, they sleep, they daydream, they read the newspaper, they check their whatever they do. But if you spend that hour every day properly, over 7 years, it accumulates to a large amount of time that you could finish the entire Talmud. And so the key to having a long life, we saw what happened in Pittsburgh, the tragedy. And one of the things that should remind us is nobody knows how much time they have left. You know, those Jews came to shul, the last thing in their mind, God forbid, was what was going to happen. And it doesn't mean you should live in fear. What it means is you should realize every day, every hour, every minute, use it to the maximum, do the best you can with the time God gave you. Because that's the greatest gift we have, and every moment we have that gift of life, we should use it to the fullest.